Okay, great. So I was just looking at the document, and you did not complete this descriptive for the most influential, sorry, the positive impact person, right?
For
Or
sociology?
no? Okay, yeah. Okay, sorry. Okay, yeah. Today is Monday. I'm sorry. That's
No, no, it's
that's
okay.
fine. Yeah. Okay. So let me just share my screen for that. All right. Okay. So great. Okay. So we're just doing. The last thing that we did was that we discussed Marxism, and we discussed the point of view of Karl Marx, and now we're just looking at the key ideas of Emile Durkheim, right? So when we were looking at Karl Marx, we were talking about Marxist, and when we're looking at Emile Durkheim, we're going to be looking at functionalist. Okay, that's the key idea behind here. And what functionalists say is that everything in the world is amazing, everything in society particularly is perfectly fine, and there's no issues with society whatsoever, and just that general idea is followed throughout. So right, okay, so Emile Durkheim is one of the founders of sociology as an academic subject. His worldview or perspective is very different from that of the Marx. So again, there's a little bit about Emile Durkheim and his key contribution to the development of sociology. So they're talking about how he was the main figure for functionalism, which was an important perspective in sociology, and his approach was very popular, and he made major contribution to understanding of the functions of crime. So he said that each and every single thing in society, good or bad, has a function in society, and through that the society functions. So when we talk about a functional society, we particularly, when we think about a functional society, what we actually think of is that a society that is functioning properly, a society that is running smoothly. And Emile Durkheim believed that every single agency of socialization and every single thing in society had a particular function that it followed, and through that functions, it made society what society really is. So he said that even crime and deviance have a function that they follow, and through those functions, it makes society what it is. And that's why it's called functionalism, that you need, he said that you need all of these things in order for society to be functional, and functional is the smooth running of a society. So he said that all of these things are needed and their functions are needed in order to persevere or in order to assure a functional society. Are we clear till here?
Yes.
Okay. So now what you look at over here, this whole thing is basically the human body, right? So we know it's the human body. Why is it presented here is that basically the right. So Emile Durkheim was one of the most famous functionists because he presented this idea where he said, which was called biological analogy, or a sociological analogy. So it was called this because he said that society is a human body, and these these agencies of socialization are parts of the human body, which function the human body, okay, which make sure that the human body works. So let me just share my screen to that sociology document that we follow, and let me just write this down, jot it down, so that it's relatively more understandable. Okay, so we're here. So he said, so when we talk about Emile Durkheim, he presented this biological analogy, which was that the society is a human body, and agencies of socialization are parts of the human body, and each of these parts, like for example our heart, our lungs, our chest, whatever, right? Each of these has a significant role. And then in that regard, which helps the society function. So like Okay, that's the basic idea, basic perspective that we are following through here. Right. So that's why this whole thing is given. We're going to read about it, so it's going to be more clear. So the functionalist approach explains social institutions such as families, education system, and social stratification systems in terms of the function that they perform for the wider society. To understand functionalism, a biological analogy can be used. In other words, we can compare society to the human body. If you want to understand the human body and how it works, we could start by identifying the vital organs such as heart, lungs, or liver. We might then focus on one organ such as the heart, whose function is to pump blood around the body. Next, we might examine how the heart is connected to other parts of the body as the blood vessels. Finally, we could look at how the heart contributes to the survival of the body as a whole. Now, this is something that they presented in a biological perspective. They have told you the functions of the heart, how the heart functions, how that affects everything else, and how that basically leads to a human being functioning. Now, they're saying that in the same way, functionalism views society as made up of different parts that interlock and fit together. So, under functionalism, under M.I. Durkheim's perspective, society is also made up of different parts that help each other function, that are connected, and that basically just help the body function. The different social institutions, such as family, education, and religion, are important organs in the body of society. Right, yeah. Functionalism examines these institutions in terms of their function, that is, the job they perform to help society run smoothly. The different social institutions meet the needs of society by performing functions to ensure its survival. So they're saying that they perform their own functions, which are equally vital, and they aid to the functions of the others. They make sure that their functions are helping the others function as well, the other agencies function as well, and that basically determines its survival. So Durkheim studied crime, religion, and education by focusing on the functions they fulfill in meeting the needs of society. For example, he argued that the punishment of criminals has an important function in helping to bring the people together. Punishment reinforces the values and beliefs that the majority of people in society hold. By binding people together in this way, crime can contribute to social cohesion. Social cohesion is basically when you have social peace in some sense or the other, social consensus, so social agreement. So he gave an example. So they're giving an example here. They're saying that when crime performs its function, they basically need to, in the process of stopping that particular function, they have to join together forces and then punish that crime. So the social agency of crime is equally important, because only when a society gets together and punish a certain crime, only then they understand and then they get strong together, and that brings about social consensus, social agreement. Are we clear till here?
Yes.
Okay. Um, right. So similarities between functionalism and Marxism. So although functionalism and Marxism are different in important ways, they both are structural approaches. This means that they focus on structure of society and how this influences and directs human behavior. So there's two approaches. Okay, now we know what Marxism is, we know what functionalism is. To get further on it, we need to know two more things, which is structuralism and interpretivism, right? So there is the structuralist approach, which is basically falling under functionalism and Marxism. Now, this approach says that the society makes people behave a certain way, whereas the interpretivist approach says that people make society behave a certain way. Okay, so that is something that you will understand later on. But right now, what you need to understand is that both of these are structural approaches, because they define the structure of society, because they're talking about the structure of society. So when we talk about Marxism is saying that the structure of society is unequal, it's unequal, and there's inequality, and because of that, there is a lot of differences in the wealthy and the poor. So they are talking about the structure of society and how it's flawed. And then when we talk about functionalism as well, it is also talking about the structure of society. However, it's just talking about how the structure of a society is perfectly fine, because it consists of different agencies which need to work together. Now, that's both of them are essentially talking about the structure of society. That is why they're similar, because they are talking about how the structure of society maintains or molds human behavior, how a certain structure, be it inequality, be it important, be it positive, be it negative, will help human behavior. So under Marxism, we know that when Marxists say that because if you're wealthy, you will probably have a sense of fulfillment and a sense of power, compared to when you're poor, then you'll be exploited and you will be left behind, you will feel marginalized. So that is basically determining human behavior, compared to when we talk about functionalism, where when they say that the structure of society is actually helping humans to behave the right way. It's helping with social cohesion, it's helping with agreements, it's helping with consensus and avoiding conflict. So, however, not all sociologists agree with structural approaches. Critics argue that these approaches view people as being puppets. So, because the structural approach basically says that the structure of a society is important in order to ensure how a human will behave. It is also seen, the structural approach is also seen as, people being puppets. So, handling people as puppets. So that's one thing that they look at this approach as. So they say that it's not very vital, or it's not a very positive approach, because it means that the humans are basically puppets, and we are just agreeing with them in this. They're just agreeing to the structure of society. That is why structural approach is talking against it. Are we clear till here? Do we understand what structuralism is?
Yes, do you mind if I can read it really quick, go through the topic?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Read it. I'm right here.
Okay, I'm done.
Okay, perfect. So, right. Okay, yeah. So we're just criticizing functionalism, right? So, like we criticize Marxism as well, we talked about how it's just focusing on two classes and not the others. So we're also going to criticize functionalism. The functionalist approach focuses on positive functions that things as crime and religion perform for society. However, they do not look at how dysfunctional they can also be. So, for example, even the example that they used about crime, so they talked about how crime can be positive, but then why are you also ignoring how crime can be negative? So that aspect of it should not be ignored. So that's one critique of functionalism, that it is only focusing on the positives of these agencies, of these body parts basically, and not looking at the negatives. So, for example, knife crime can have devastating effects on individual victims and on communities. Religion can also cause long-term conflicts between social groups such as Catholics and Protestants in the Northern Ireland. So, for example, there's a lot of sect differences. Even with Muslim countries, there's a lot of sect differences which cause so many conflicts. So while religion might help with social cohesion and social peace and consensus, fine, it's functional, but then at the same time it can also be dysfunctional with all the disagreements that go on. So that is something that functionalism ignores as a whole. So that's one thing. And looking at the key ideas of Max Weber. So Max Weber said that he also had a major contribution, including social class status and power. And okay, so it's similar to, you'll understand Max Weber's perspective if you keep in mind Marxist perspective as well. So both Marx and Weber were interested in issues such as the development of capitalism and social class. Marx saw social class as the key division in society, and he defined class in terms of economic factors. Weber agreed with Marx that ownership and non-ownership of property is the most important basis of class divisions. However, Weber argued that class divisions are not based on economic factors. They are also linked to skills and qualifications that people have. These skills and qualification affect the sort of occupation and job that people get. People with high level of qualifications and specialized skills are more marketable than people without these qualifications and skills. So the major difference between Max Weber and Karl Marx was that Max Weber said that the society is a meritocratic agency. The society is a meritocratic institute. Now, what does meritocratic mean? So, coming from that, let me just so coming from the word itself, based on merit. So, what? Just a second. Wait, merit. What Max Weber said was that it is not just economic factors, or it is not just wealth that defines the elite, the bourgeoisie, and the poor, the proletariat. It is more than that. Okay, so while Karl Marx said that there's the owners of practice of production, which is the capitalist, the elite people, and then there's the poor people or the working class that gets exploited. But Max Weber said that you are ignoring a very strong and a very clear idea to this, which is basically that it is also a meritocratic society, which means that a person gets awarded on the basis of merit, right? And when a person gets awarded on the basis of merit, that would mean that they would be awarded on the basis of their skills, they would be awarded on the basis of their language, they would be awarded on the basis of their degrees. Okay, so when that all of that will happen, then that is basically the clear division. Then you get divided. So he said that it's not just poor and rich, it is also, let's say, educated, not educated, or uneducated, or skillful and non-skillful. So anyone who is an architect would be skillful, but anyone who's building, who's doing manual labor, bringing like cement or something, that's unskilled, right? So that is the also a division. So he said that yes, there is division in society. You are absolutely right that there is division on society, but you are actually forgetting all the other aspects there can be division on. So division cannot just be on the basis of rich and poor. It can also be on the basis of other aspects. So it can also be on the basis of education, it can also be on the basis of skill. You can't just say that division is on the basis of wealth. Are we clear? Are we clear?
Yes, miss. Yeah.
Okay, great. Right. So here's examples of the things that can be used for division, basically. So Weber identified other aspects of social stratification. Now, stratification is division. Okay. So stratification comes from the word strata, and strata basically means building blocks. So building blocks is basically the division. So one building block, like like a triangular thing. So let me just wait. Does this allow me to draw? I hope this no. I'm not sure if this allows me to draw, but stratification. down the definition and the explanation, which will help you understand better. Right. So he said that there's other aspects for social stratification, which is basically divided into stratas or layers in addition to class. One of these is status. Status refers to how prestige the social standing is. So when you talk about status, that is basically within society how prestigious your social standing is. So within society, are you considered the upper class? Are you considered the middle class? Are you considered the lower class? That is your status in society. Now someone who might not be, for example, the army, okay, the army does not get paid that much. However, when you look at their status, that is higher than the general population. So maybe a businessman may be way richer than the army person, but the army person is still above them because of the status that they carry. So it does not always have to do with wealth. It also has to do with the status you carry, the social standing you carry in the society. How important are you? So for example, if I talk about someone who has an NGO. So they probably are not that rich themselves. However, their social standing in society is going to be so much more than a general person. So, for example, I don't know if you know about it, but Abdul Sattar Idi, he wasn't a rich man. He was a very low maintenance, very poor man, but he had such a huge NGO. His social standing in society is way higher than any of our politicians. So that it does not depend on wealth. So status does not depend on wealth. It depends on your social standing, how important you are considered in society, which will vary from society to society. So for example, if I talk about Pakistan, maybe Dawood Ibrahim is considered or let's just say if I talk about Saudi, so Mohammed bin Salman or might be considered very important in Saudi. But then when you move, maybe when he goes to US, he might not be considered that important. He might be shunned to the corner, because of so many conflicts. So that means that his social standing in the US is not the same as his social standing in Saudi. So that is one aspect to it. Um, Right. There are differences between groups in terms of how much status they have. Some groups, such as surgeons and judges, have high status in UK today. They also have relatively low incomes. Oh, sorry, relatively high incomes. However, Weber argued that status does not always go in hand in hand with income. So I gave you an example of that. Also, when you talk about judges, they do not get paid on their per judgment thing. They get paid on their thing. So relatively only they get paid less than the corporate lawyers because they are serving the government basically, at least in Pakistan, right? So but they still have a higher status than a lawyer, no matter how much more that a lawyer can is earning. So that's one thing. There are groups who earn high incomes but have relatively low status in society. For instance, some second-hand car dealers earn much more than junior doctors, nurses, or teachers but have less status. There you go. They've given us an example. There are other groups such as religious leaders who have high status but low incomes. There you go, another example. Then we have that's one division, one strata basically, which you can use, which is of status. Then we have power. So Weber made a key contribution to the study of power. He argued that an individual or group exercises power when they get what they want, despite any opposition from other individuals or groups. In Weber's view, people have power in so far as they can get other people to behave as they want them to. So what he's saying is that power is another thing that you can differentiate with. So for example, within a school, even though the teacher and let's say someone from the admin or the head of department, they all have power in the eyes of students. They all have power, but there's still stratification. The principal will still be more powerful than the teacher or the head of department. So there's a stratification, there's a division there as well. So even when you talk about the army, so for us, even a second lieutenant would be really important and really powerful. But even for that second lieutenant, there's going to be captain over him, then there's going to be a brigadier over him. So in every sense whatsoever, when there is power, yes, they have the ability to make people listen to them. But with each amount of power, there's going to be somebody who's more powerful, and that is where the stratification or the division lies. Are we clear?
Yes.
Okay, amazing. So that's Max Weber's perspective. We're just gonna take a 2 minute break. I just wanna have some water and then we're gonna continue.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, let's continue. Right, okay. So we are looking at what is the consensus versus conflict debate. And like we were talking about structuralism, interpretism, um, functionalism, Marxism, Weberian perspective. So all of that also, so that basically lies with consensus debates and conflict debates. So when we talk about functionalism, that's towards consensus, because consensus basically means agreement and peace, okay, and conflict means confusion and disagreement, basically. So when we talk about consensus, so functionalism lies under this because functionalism believes in social cohesion. It believes that there is peace in society, that everything is fine in society, that it is a functional society and every single agency is important. Whereas when we talk about conflict debate, they say that there's inequality in society, there's divisions in society, there is disagreements in society, which will obviously be Marxism, and another one is feminism. Okay, so feminism similar to Marxism. So Marxism say that there is a division based on class or based on wealth. Okay, and Weberian perspective say that there's a division based on more than just class or wealth. Okay, and when you talk about feminism, feminism says that there is this division and there is inequality in society based on gender. Okay, so they say that based on the sex of a person, there is inequality in society, that men are more dominant than women, and women are living in a patriarchal society, which basically means the society that men rules, not a woman. So patriarchy means that a society that men rules. Okay, so let's just read it and we'll get through it. Sociologists disagree about how they see the social world, and this means that there are different theoretical perspectives in sociology. A perspective is a particular way of seeing society and explaining how it works. Examples include functionalism, Marxism, and feminism. So, one key difference between perspectives is whether they see society as based on consensus, which is agreement, or conflict, which is disagreement. So, whether they see society as a society as something that's based on peace and consensus, or do they see society as something that's conflicted, that's something based on disagreement. One key difference between these perspectives is whether to see the society is based on, okay, yeah, we've done that. Okay, so consensus approach says that in places such as airports, hospitals, and prisons throughout the UK, complex activities take place every day. Much could go wrong. At airports, for example, airplanes can be delayed or baggage could go missing. Yet airports generally ordered places where things usually run smoothly. Similarly, in wider society, social life is usually ordered and stable. According to the consensus approach, order and stability in society depend on cooperation between individuals and groups who work together for the common good. Generally, this cooperation happens when people believe they have shared interests and goals. So they are basically saying that when you talk about consensus, so they basically say that everything in society is agreeing with each other, and the groups and the individuals and the groups agree with each other, and they work with each other together hand in hand in order to ensure a smooth running of society. That's the consensus approach. Sociologists who work within the functionalist approach see society as based on value consensus, which basically means that they agree with the norms and values of society. They feel that the norms and values of society are important, and it's not like they disagree with a few values. So it's not like in a, if there's a value with some traditional dinner, so one group is saying no, this is wrong. So what functionalists believe is that there is value consensus, that everybody agrees and respects each other's values, and there is no conflict with values. However, that's not true, not at least not in the societies that we are living in. But there are places such as Finland and Singapore. Now they basically do have value consensus. They do have a very consensual approach to society. So value consensus is when you basically agree on the social order or the maintenance or the stability of society. Whereas conflict approach is basically that structure of society. They basically say that the structure of society is giving more power to a certain individual or a certain group compared to other groups and individuals. So Marxism and feminism are examples of conflict theories see society as based on conflicting interests between groups rather than etc etc. So they're basically, again, they're saying that the structure of society is giving more power or more importance to one group compared to the other, which causes conflict in society because one group is always above the other group, or one individual is always above the other individual. So the Marxist perspective sees capitalist society as based on conflict between two social classes, the bourgeoisie and the proletariat. Bourgeoisie is the elite or the ruling class, and proletariat is the working class or the poor. Marxist focuses on class struggle. They argue that there is conflict between powerful and less powerful group in the capitalist society based on their opposing interests. So they say that okay, the conflict over here is of class. There, the conflict over here is that there are two powerful group. There's one powerful group that is exploiting the other group, and there's a huge division over there. However, social order is maintained over time because the bourgeoisie have the power to enforce order. They say that the social order is maintained only because the bourgeoisie or the elite basically ordered the poor people to do a certain thing, and that's how social order is maintained. Now, that is something that happens in Middle Eastern societies very normally. So the ruling class is always the elite people, the rich people, and they actually order everybody who's beneath them to act a certain way. That is exactly what's happening under the name of democracy in many countries, right? Um, Compared to feminist perspective, which also says that yes, there is discrimination on the basis of sex. Okay, there's gender inequality, and there's more masculinity, and within the culture, male are given more attention, more power compared to women, and that is in itself is causing conflict in society, and that is a structure of society that is causing conflict, and it is showing one group as powerful and the other group as not powerful. Are we clear?
Yes.
Okay. So looking at gender and power, so just to understand more on to feminism. So some feminist approaches argue that society is patriarchal. In other words, it is based on male power over women. These approaches explore the workings of patriarchy within social structures such as families, education, the workplace, and the criminal justice system. They can see family life, for example, as based on male dominance, and they so etc etc. The way basically what they're saying is that because within the society, what feminism say that within the society there is conflict because there is stratification or division between these two groups of male and female. And how is that there? Because they say that men have more power, and when the men have more power, they are ruling the society. And when a society is ruled by the male, that is called a patriarchal society, or that's called patriarchy. That men are the decision makers. Men are the one who are doing every single thing. They are making all the decisions within a society. So they women say that the structure of society is divided based on gender, and based on that they are given the power. So based on your gender you are also given a certain amount of power. So if you are a man, sorry, you will be given more power compared to when you are a female. So that's their perspective. Are we clear till here?
Yes. Do you mind if I can read it again?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, miss, I'm done.
Okay, perfect. So
Miss,
yeah,
do you mind if I can go to the bathroom really quick?
yeah, go.
Okay. Sorry about that, miss.
don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Okay, so I just I wanted to ask you if you got a PDF of this book.
I don't have a PDF, no. No, I don't have a PDF.
Oh, okay,
I have a hard copy. Um I can take pictures of it and make it into a hard copy online,
no,
PDF.
it's okay, it's okay. So what we're gonna do is, because I had this, and I use this for overview, so that when we actually do it, so we're just clearer. But I need to basically, do each topic basically, and I don't have the book yet, right? So I was just looking around, and now I've been asked to purchase it. So I have to purchase it, but right now I just let me see if this is, look, this is not the one either. So
I
this
can
is,
there's no problem. I can take the picture of every topic and I can make it into PDF and send it to you.
but bacha, that's going to take a lot of time, so it's okay. I'll know generally purchases it as well. That's totally fine. But we're probably going to have to keep class till here for today, because I don't want
Okay.
to go to statistical analysis
Eh,
until
no
we're
worries.
done. Otherwise, yeah.
Yeah, perfect.
So I'll make sure by Wednesday I've got the book, and then we're going to continue. So then, if you
Okay,
have any
perfect.
questions, I am available.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Allah Hafiz.
Allah Hafiz.